At a regional staff meeting, my brother said into the mic, "Some people dream big and others dream realistically." He looked straight at me as everyone chuckled. Over 6 years, I took every certification, won every award he ignored. When he was finally demoted, he messaged me desperate, asking if I could recommend him to my new company. I simply replied, "Unfortunately, we require integrity." This happened in Arkansas about 10 years ago. Back then, I was still trying to prove myself. I had just started working at a regional distribution company that handled logistics for multiple retailers across the South. I wasn't flashy or loud. I just wanted to do a good job. My older brother, Brent, had already been there for years when I got hired. He wasn't just a worker, he was one of those people who made themselves the center of attention. You know the type. We weren't close. Growing up, Brent always found a way to remind me I was a step behind him. If I got a B+, he got an A. If I got a summer job, he had already gotten a better one. That's just how it was. So, when I got hired at his company, I already knew it would be awkward. He barely looked at me on my first day. I came into the office and said hi, and he just nodded. No real welcome, no advice. Nothing. I told myself it was fine. I didn't come to make friends. I came to work. 6 months in, we had a regional staff meeting at the Conway Conference Center. It was a big deal. People flew in from Oklahoma, Mississippi, Texas. Our regional VP came in from Atlanta. Everyone wore suits and name tags. Brent was one of the presenters. He'd been given a slot to talk about team leadership and future growth. Sounded like fluff, but I listened. Brent stood on the little stage and clicked through slides. He made jokes. People laughed. He was in his element. Then he got quiet for a second and said this, "Some people dream big, and others dream realistically." Then he looked right at me. I heard chuckles ripple through the room. Some people laughed hard. I sat there frozen, heart pounding in my chest. I didn't say anything. I didn't react. But inside something broke. He humiliated me. In front of coworkers. In front of managers. And he knew what he was doing. That night, I drove home in silence. No radio. No music. Just thinking. I stayed up until 3 a.m. reading about logistics certifications and improvement programs. I didn't just want to move past it. I wanted to bury him. Quietly. Professionally. With results he couldn't joke away. The next day, I registered for a 6 Sigma Green Belt course. Then lean training. Then OSHA compliance. I signed up for every internal workshop the company offered, even the boring ones. I watched hours of online seminars on supply chain efficiency and warehouse management. I didn't talk about it. I didn't share it on social media. I just kept going. Brent? He stayed the same. Smooth talker. Always taking long lunches. Always the loudest guy at the bar during company events. He had favorites on his team and ignored everyone else. I heard stories about him blowing off meetings, flirting with junior staff, blaming others when shipments got delayed. But he always found a way to stay just above the line. That charm of his carried him. I got promoted 2 years in. Nothing major, just process improvement analyst. But it gave me visibility and access. I started working with other departments and got noticed by regional leadership. Meanwhile, Brent was still a team leader. I could tell he didn't like it. One day in the break room, he saw me in a polo with a different color badge. He stared at it and said, "Oh, look at you climbing ladders." I didn't answer. I didn't have to. By the 3rd year, I was leading warehouse redesigns in Little Rock and Texarkana. My changes saved us real money. I got invited to a meeting with HQ execs. Brent wasn't in the room. By the 4th year, Brent's team had a 40% turnover rate. People quit left and right. Word got around that he'd blown up at a driver in front of customers. HR had to step in. He got a warning. Still he stayed. I kept stacking certifications, PMP, APEX, even a transportation safety license I didn't need. I did it because I could. I started getting messages on LinkedIn from other companies. I ignored them. I wasn't done yet. The 5th year, I won a Regional Innovation Award. The VP from Atlanta flew in to hand me the plaque. Brent didn't clap. He stared at his phone. And then came year 6. I was approached by a logistics tech company in Dallas. They'd seen my work through an industry publication. They wanted me to come on board as a systems optimization director. Better title, better pay, better people. I accepted. Brent said nothing when he heard I was leaving. Not a word. 2 months later, I got a message from a friend who still worked at our old company. Did you hear about Brent? Demoted. They made him step down to coordinator. Too many complaints. I wasn't surprised. It had been coming. He just never thought it would actually happen. 3 weeks after that, my phone buzzed. It was Brent. I hadn't spoken to him since I left. The message said, "Hey, I know we've had our differences, but I was wondering if you could recommend me at your new company. I heard they're growing and I need a fresh start. Let me know." I stared at the message for a long time. I thought about the look on his face at that meeting 6 years ago. The way the room laughed. The way he enjoyed it. I typed one sentence. "Unfortunately, we require integrity." And I hit send. After I sent that message, "Unfortunately, we require integrity," I thought that would be the end of it. I felt a kind of quiet satisfaction. 6 years of being underestimated, mocked, laughed at. It was all worth it for that one moment. But I didn't expect what happened next. 2 days later, Brent called me. I didn't pick up. He called again. Then he left a voicemail. I get it. I was an ass. I was stupid back then, okay? But I've got a family. I've got a mortgage. I need work. Don't do this just to prove a point. Please. That voicemail hit different. See, Brent had 2 kids. A boy and a girl. I barely saw them, but I remembered their names. He used to bring them to the company picnic every year. His daughter once gave me a flower she picked from the lawn. I still remembered her smile. And for a second I wondered if I was being too cold. Then I remembered year 3, when I asked Brent for feedback on a new warehouse policy I was trying to write. He laughed and said, "Let the real managers handle that." I remembered the meetings he hijacked with his stupid jokes. The time he rerouted a client call that was meant for me, and took the credit for solving the issue. I remembered it all. So no, I didn't reply. But Brent didn't give up. A week later, I found out he had sent his resume to my new company anyway. He listed me as a reference. That was bold. Or stupid. Or both. HR reached out to me, confused. "Hey, he listed you as a reference? We just want to confirm." I told them the truth. He's my brother. But I wouldn't trust him to manage a vending machine. They thanked me for the honesty. That was the second time I thought it was over. But Brent kept spiraling. A few months later, I heard through an old coworker that Brent had taken a job with a small shipping outfit in Fort Smith. Lower pay. Bad hours. No benefits for the first 6 months. He was miserable. I would have left it alone, but then something weird happened. I got an email from our mom. Subject line: "What is going on between you and Brent?" She wrote, "He came by last week, said he tried to get help from you and you shut him out. That's not how I raised you. You're brothers. You're supposed to look out for each other. I know he's not perfect, but this seems cruel." That was the real twist. Because Brent had gone to our mother and told her I was ruining his life. He didn't mention the humiliation, or the years of sarcasm, or the years I spent cleaning up the messes he left behind. He made me the villain. So now I was furious. And I wasn't done. After I read that email from Mom, I just sat at my desk staring at the screen. I couldn't even form words. He'd gone behind my back. Again. After everything he did, he was the victim now. And I was the cold, heartless brother? I didn't answer her right away. I needed to think. But before I could, she called. It wasn't a calm call. She was upset. Said Brent was barely getting by. Said his wife was working night shifts at a hospital to keep the bills paid. That he'd been really trying. Trying? I almost laughed. I wanted to ask her where she was when he made me a joke in front of 80 people. Where was she when I stayed late every night just to stay ahead? But I didn't say any of that. I just told her the truth. He earned this. Every bit of it. And if he told you different, then you don't know the full story. She cried. That part stung. I didn't want to hurt her. But I wasn't going to let him rewrite history. The next day, I got a text from Brent's wife. I hadn't spoken to her in years. I don't know what happened between you two, but he's not okay. Please, just, if there's anything you can do. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about Brent anymore. He was dragging people down with him. And worse? He still hadn't taken any responsibility. Not once. Not in his messages, not to my face, not to Mom, and clearly not to his wife. I almost let it go there. But I couldn't. So I started making calls. I reached out to a few former coworkers. Quiet ones. People who used to be on his team. The ones who got ignored. Or blamed. Or belittled. I asked them what he did behind closed doors, what really went on when no one was looking. And what they told me. It was worse than I thought. He used to skip one-on-one check-ins completely. Had them sign off on fake reviews. Gave negative marks to people he didn't like, just so they wouldn't qualify for bonuses. One guy even said Brent threatened to mess with his schedule if he didn't lighten up about an HR complaint. Another woman told me she left the company entirely because of the way Brent talked to her during her pregnancy, saying things like, "Don't milk the system," when she had doctor appointments. I was shaking by the time I hung up the phone. He hadn't just mocked me. He'd left a trail of damaged people behind him. So I made one more call to a reporter I'd met at an industry event last year. He wrote exposés on workplace abuse and toxic management. I told him I had a story. I had witnesses. I had receipts. And he listened. The reporter's name was Keith. He worked for a local business journal that focused on labor stories across Arkansas and surrounding states. We met once at a logistics expo in Dallas. I remembered he did a piece exposing a warehouse manager in Oklahoma who was forcing employees to clock out and keep working. It had gone viral in our industry. When I called him, I didn't tell him Brent was my brother. I didn't have to. I just said I had information about a former team leader who ran a toxic department for years. And I had people willing to talk. Keith asked me one question. Do they have proof? I told him yes. The woman Brent humiliated during her pregnancy still had emails. The guy he messed with over scheduling had copies of altered timesheets. One even had a recording. I gave Keith their contact info. He said he'd follow up and let me know if it was worth pursuing. I didn't hear anything for 2 weeks. Then one morning I woke up and saw the headline. Inside a toxic team. How a former logistics manager got away with abuse for years. The article didn't name Brent directly, but anyone from our company would recognize the description. It detailed everything. The fake reviews. The retaliation. The HR complaints that went nowhere. Quotes from ex-employees. Screenshots. Even parts of the audio recording where he said, "If you're not tough enough for this job, maybe you should go home and bake cookies." It hit hard. And it spread fast. By noon, people were sharing it on LinkedIn. Someone posted it in a private group for supply chain professionals. My inbox started blowing up. Brent's name was everywhere in the comments. Nobody was confused about who the article was about. 2 days later, his new employer in Fort Smith fired him. He tried to deny it, said the story was fake. But it was too late. The damage was done. No one wanted to be associated with him. A week after that, he messaged me again. "You did this, didn't you?" I didn't reply. Then came the final message. "You ruined my life." And for a moment I hesitated. I thought maybe I had gone too far. Maybe I could have left it alone after that first text. Maybe I didn't need to push it this far. But then I remembered all those voices. All the people he hurt. The ones who never got to say anything. The ones who left their jobs or missed bonuses or cried in their cars because of him. He wasn't just my problem. He was everyone's problem. I just happened to be the one who didn't let it go. That was the end of Brent's career in logistics. As far as I know, he hasn't found stable work since. His wife eventually left him. Took the kids and moved to her sister's place in Tennessee. Mom and I don't talk much now. She said what I did was vindictive. Maybe it was. But you know what? So was humiliating your own brother in front of 80 people and calling it a joke. So was sabotaging people's careers and laughing about it. I worked 6 years in silence. He played games. I played long. And I won.